We often misunderstand prayer as being just about us talking to God, telling Him what we want and expressing. And that is a big part of it, but another big part of it is listening. We are such a driven and intentional society now, where everything has to mean something and do something and present something. But in actual fact, sometimes we just need to be still and to listen. There's a wonderful story in the writings of the Desert Fathers where quite a nosy monk who was looking out his window and he saw his brother monk walking around his cell. The places where they live, they're called cells. Walking around his cell, around and around and around, and then goes into it. And he's quite perplexed, and he goes and knocks on his door and sort of said, I'm really sorry to be nosy, but why were you walking around? And he said, believe me, brother, I had a thought that was preoccupying me, and I had to be rid of it before I went into my cell to pray. Otherwise, it would preoccupy me then as well. So that preparation is really important, and recognizing that we can't just switch modes from one to another very quickly and immediately. There's this perception that once you enter the monastery, it all falls into place. You suddenly become this deep, prayerful, reflective person, but it's not the case. It builds up over time. And so we need to set ourselves apart for those 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, however long it is that we dedicate to prayer, to be still and to listen, and to recognize that that can be transformative. We can go throughout our days drinking lots of things. You drink tea, you drink coffee, you drink herbal tea, you drink other things, constantly consuming beverages. And I don't know about you, but for me sometimes, once you have a glass of water, with its simplicity, its cleansing, you feel this natural taste, this cooling taste, this quenching taste. And you realize that's exactly what your body needs. You don't need everything else. Prayer is very much the same. And silence is very much the same. We do a lot during the day. We speak, we listen, we interact, we think, we assess, we do lots of things. I'm always so intrigued and so inspired by how refreshing silence is. Just being able to sit in silence and listen to nothing. But it's not even nothing, because I think in that, God's voice is working. And we're receiving from Him. But we just need to be able to give ourselves that space, that refreshing, thirst-quenching silence that our spirit craves. The story of Samuel is wonderful because there's this perception of, did I just hear something? There's something, did you just call me? It's been God all the time, but because there isn't the expectation of God's calling, we accredit it to other things. But God will call us, sometimes with absolute clarity, and sometimes, quite annoyingly and challengingly, it's more quiet and more discreet, and it requires more discernment. And I think that's important. It's important to listen, but also when we hear, to discern God's voice. Sometimes we'll do it by ourselves, but like in the story of Samuel, sometimes you need your guide to tell you, actually, that was God's voice. My prayer is that we enable and encourage people to be able to listen, but then to respond to the calling. And generally, I think is that we continue to do things together. And so Thy Kingdom Come has been one of those platforms that we're all able to share. Ever since it started, with the passion, with the vision, with the simplicity of the message, I pray that God continues to bless their work and continues to use this initiative as a way of bringing His church together in tangible ways that become visible to the world, so that we can be a source of hope and joy and victory in a world that sometimes feels quite defeated.